Situated on the southern margin of the major Amadeus sedimentary basin, this park comprises extensive sand plains, dunes and alluvial desert, punctuated by the Uluru monolith and Katajuta. Although the geological features of Ayers Rock and the Olgas, or Katajuta, are the most evident features of Uluru Park, it's recognized that the cultural values of the site are significant. These relate to the religious and mythic beliefs of the native Aboriginal population. As a cultural landscape, presenting the combined works of nature and man, manifesting the interaction of mankind and its natural environment, the landscape of the Uluru Katajuta Ayers Rock Mount Olga National Park is the outcome of millennia of management under traditional Anangu procedures governed by the Jukurpa. Recent archaeological evidence suggests that the contemporary cultural adaptations of the Anangu people of Central Australia were achieved during a period of social and cultural evolution spanning the last 5,000 years. And the park is therefore illustrative of human society and settlement over time, under the influence of the physical constraints and opportunities presented by their natural environment. A unique cultural adaptation to the desert environment enabled Anangu and related groups in the Western Desert to develop social groups which were based on semi-permanent water sources, but which held reciprocal rights of access over plants and animal resources in the intervening areas. The outstanding universal value of the park is established by the presence within it of the huge monoliths of Uluru and Katajuta, which Anangu and non-Anangu acknowledge, together with the unique pattern of traditional land management and its basis in the oral narratives of ancestral beings of the Jukurpa, an outstanding example of an indigenous religion, creating a spiritual relationship with the land, which governs both subsistence practices and celebration of the landscape in ceremony. The immense size of the Uluru monolith and the collection of polished domes at Mount Olga result in a landscape of scenic grandeur. Uluru and Katajuta are outstanding among the nodes in the network of ancestral tracks established during the Jukurpa. The former because of the extraordinary density of sites within the perimeter of the monolith, and the latter because of its position on one of the most sacred tracks. Uluru and Katajuta lie near the southern margin of an area geologists call the Amadeus Basin. This depression in the Earth's crust formed about 900 million years ago and received layer upon layer of sediment over several hundred million years. This stopped about 300 million years ago. At times, the Amadeus Basin was a shallow sea, collecting these sediments. Some of it was blocked off from the sea, and the water evaporated, leaving crusted salt. The sea receded between 400 and 300 million years ago, and the rocks were folded and fractured. This second major folding is called the Alice Springs orogeny. It raised the region above sea level. The horizontal layers of the Uluru Arcos were folded and turned nearly 90 degrees to their present position. The Katajuta conglomerates were tilted only about 15 to 20 degrees from the horizontal. The sand rocks at the surface eroded rapidly. This erosion still continues now at a slower rate. The flaky surface of Uluru results from the chemical decay of minerals. The characteristic rusty colour of the exposed surface of these flakes is caused by the oxidation or rusting of the iron in the Arcos. Fresh Arcos is a grey colour. As the surface rocks are heated and cooled, the release of pressure produces fissures parallel to the rock surfaces. These fissures are visible on Uluru and near the summits of some of the Katajuta domes. Eventually, these large plates of rock break away and fall down around the base or into high crevices. Scientists still debate the formation of the caves at Uluru. Some say they can begin with water lying in dimples in the rock. The weathering process can then form a hollow and gradually eat backward and upward into the rock until it becomes a cave. Others say that the high caves on the southern side of Uluru may have begun by water soaking in when the plain surface was at a higher level. Once soaked, the weathering process could again eat upward and backward to form a cave. The spaced high caves on the northeastern and western faces may have begun by the flaking process and honeycombed out by wind and water over time. As an associative landscape, the park has powerful religious, artistic and cultural qualities. The Anangu Jukurpa is an outstanding example of the indigenous Australian philosophy, popularly but misleadingly known in European languages as the dreaming. Jukurpa is better understood as the time of law or epi-time. During this time, heroic beings travelled, singly or in groups, shaping the landscape as they foraged, camped or interacted with one another. At the same time, the heroes performed according to the procedures established by the ancestors. As clusters of sacred sites, the form of both Uluru and Katajuta incorporate the actions, artifacts and bodies of the ancestral heroes, celebrated in Anangu religion and culture through narratives, elaborate song cycles, various visual arts and dance. As a cultural landscape of outstanding universal value from the point of view of history, art and science, the Ayers Rock Mount Olga National Park is a reference. Uluru and Katajuta have been known to non-Anangu only since the late 19th century. The gradual expansion of pastoralism south and west of Alice Springs in the 1920s and 1930s led to increased conflict in the region between Uluru and the Overland Telegraph Line, as livestock fouled Anangu drinking water and consumed essential plant foods. Government policy favoured the settlement of Anangu on missions. In 1948, the first access road was built to Uluru to facilitate tourism. In 1958, Uluru and Katajuta were excised from the Aboriginal Reserve to form a national park. Uluru is composed of hard sandstone, which has been exposed as a result of folding, faulting, and the erosion of surrounding rock. The monolith has a base circumference of 9.4 kilometers, smooth sloping sides of up to 80 degrees gradient, and a relatively flat top. Major surface features of the rock include sheet erosion with layers 1 to 3 meters thick, parallel to the existing surface, breaking away. The first European to see Uluru was the explorer Goss, who named it Ayers Rock after the then Chief Secretary of New South Wales. The year before, Ernest Giles had named Katajuta after Queen Olga of Württemberg. A short period of competitive exploration began to investigate the possibilities of the area for pastoral expansion once the Overland Telegraph, constructed in the 1870s, had made it more accessible for colonisation. But in less than 20 years, the sponsors of these explorations withdrew, concluding that this country was too arid for occupation. In the first decades of the 20th century, the Commonwealth, South Australian and Western Australian governments declared extensive reserves in Central Australia as sanctuaries for the Anangu speakers of several related dialects, designed to protect them from unfavourable contact with white Australians while they were being re-educated into European culture. Kapi, or water, is a scarce and precious resource in the arid environment and plays an important role in Anangu life. Anangu consider that all water sources in the park are caused by or have an association with the Jukurpa, and knowledge of the location and temporal availability of water sources has always been an essential component of Anangu ability to survive when travelling through country. The cultural landscape of the Uluru National Park is of immense significance. It's an outstanding illustration of a highly successful model of human adaptation to a hostile arid environment, which has survived for at least 5 millennia. The park also graphically demonstrates the intimate symbolic relationship between man and the landscape in this non-monumental culture. The sculpted shapes are likely to be a combination of mechanical erosion of sand from the rock and other events such as chemical changes caused by moisture. On the northwest side, water and weathering have produced parallel raised ridges outlining the sedimentary layers of Uluru. Scientists still debate the formation of the caves at Uluru. Some say they can begin with water lying in dimples in the rock. The weathering process can then form a hollow and gradually eat backward and upward into the rock until it becomes a cave. Others say that the high caves on the southern side of Uluru may have begun by water soaking in when the plain surface was at a higher level. Once soaked, the weathering process could again eat upward and backward to form a cave. The cultural landscape of the Uluru National Park is an outstanding illustration of successful human adaptation over many millennia to the needs of a hostile arid environment, the integrity of which would be threatened by any change to the present management system based on the practices of its traditional owners. The listing of Uluru National Park as a World Heritage Property for its natural and cultural values represents years of work by Anangu to assert their role as custodians of their traditional lands. This international recognition is a significant victory for Anangu, as it confirms the validity of Jukurpa as being the primary tool for looking after country.